What is going on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, and I am going to be hosting this time. Unfortunately, no Adam or Indy as far as I can tell today. But yeah, my first time hosting and going solo, so we will definitely see how this goes. Before we get started, we got Enrique in the chat today. How are you doing, Enrique? Just saw the official behind the scenes feature for the return of Riri from the Marvel television series upcoming show Ironheart, and it will arrive on Disney Plus soon. Definitely, looking forward to that. Also yesterday, Kids Choice Awards 20. Oh wow, that was yesterday. Man, it feels like it just happened like not that long ago. Okay. 2025 Nickelodeon showed 3 exclusive first looks at the upcoming live action Dora and the Search for the Soul Dorado, and it will premiere on Nickelodeon in July. I did see the trailer for that too, and I gotta say, it looks entertaining. Not like something I actually necessarily want to see, but it does. If I had kids, it's something I would definitely watch with them. Let me put it that way. Also, Pixar's Inside Out 2 wins favorite animated movie, along with actor Jim Carrey wins favorite villain as Dr. Eggman in Sonic 3. Wicked wins favorite movie and favorite song from a movie that, yeah, those all make sense to me. I can definitely say that I really enjoyed Inside Out 2. Definitely got me pretty emotional at times. And then, of course, Jim Carrey, always entertaining as Eggman, especially seeing him play like kind of the double role of both Eggman and his father. I thought he was absolutely great. He killed it. And then with Wicked. I don't know if I ever talked about my thoughts on Wicked on this channel, but yeah, I think I kind of went into that movie ready to be disappointed. But no, it was surprisingly good, and I'm actually looking forward to the second one. And I kind of was going in ready to not like it, so that movie definitely won me over. Also, Jack Black wins the King of Comedy award as well as favorite movie actor playing Steve in the Minecraft movie. Plus, the Thundermans Uncover TV series wins favorite kids TV show. Also last week during the Annecy Animation Film Festival, Pixar Animated Studio reveals first look at next year's movies, including Pixar's Hoppers in March and Toy Story 5 in June. Still don't know how I feel about Toy Story 5, just, as a concept. I had heard some kind of rumors on what the plot might revolve around, and how the opening shot will be basically a bunch of I think like Buzz Lightyears that were either recalled or just like kind of thrown away, and they kind of wake up on like a trash landfill, and they all like kind of it seems like they're going for some weird kind of they're all like together, so they kind of become like this crazy like how do you put it, like Lord of the Flies but with Buzz Lightyears. And then supposedly Woody comes back, which what was the point of sending him off in the previous film if that's the case? But we'll see. I don't want to like hate this movie before it already comes out, because I was already like not too sure about Toy Story 4 when that movie was announced, and while I didn't love Toy Story 4, I enjoyed it. But I definitely think that like the first 3 Toy Story movies were just so perfect. I don't think they really needed to continue it after that. If anything, I think that maybe what they should have done is kind of gone the route of television, using the new owner that they're with, like kind of as one of the main characters, because they did that with a bunch of shorts, and I thought that's where the franchise was going to continue going, in that kind of direction, was like all the shorts that took place in between Toy Story 3 and 4. And I think that would have been a fine way to continue the series, honestly. And finally, Jolo Maradona and Peyton List, both won favorite TV star, male and female family in Cobra Kai, and Rihanna wins the iconic award and promoting the upcoming animated Smurfs movie in July. I forgot there's another Smurfs movie coming out. Uh, we also got Kiki and Luca here. Thank you so much for joining. Andor hit #1. At what point will it be considered a success considering the $512 million price tag with rebate? Yes, definitely an expensive show. Saw 28 years later last night. Have you seen it? I'm excited for the next one. Reportedly, Cillian Murphy will be in it. I think it might actually be the third movie that he's coming into, because I know that we were talking about this on the show earlier. Like the first two are going to be shot back to back. So the one that just came out in the theaters now, and then the sequel is going to be was also shot around the same time. And then it's the third one, which hasn't been greenlit yet. I think they're just waiting. I mean, I'm sure at this point, with how successful 28 years later has been, I'm sure it's probably greenlit. They just haven't announced it at this point. But I heard that was the one that he's coming back for. But I could be wrong. It's been a minute since we talked about like the future plans for the 28 franchise. I just finished rewatching the first one yesterday because I hadn't seen it in quite a while. But now that I've rewatched it, I am definitely going to be going into theaters to see 28 years later in the next like day or two. If not today, definitely tomorrow. But yeah, that does it for our comments. So I'm just going to, since it's just me today, I'm going to skip the honorable mentions for now and just get into the articles. So I'm probably going to do this in just random order. So I guess the first one I want to kind of talk about before I even get into any of the articles is that we have a new look at the Toxic Avenger trailer, and I will play this one. I think I can get away with playing it. Hopefully YouTube does not try to copyright it if I do that, but we'll find out one way or another. I should have probably had the trailer up and ready to begin with, but I totally forgot to do that. So I'm doing that right now, getting the trailer up. And then we are going to take a look at it. I have already seen this trailer, but just for the fun of it, kind of pretend that this is a blind reaction. I'm not going to fully commit to the bit, though. Share screen. And here we go. All right, you guys can all see that. Let me know in the comments if you guys can hear it as well. Oh, and it's loading. Of course it is. Because it wouldn't be a true A+ hero report if everything ran smoothly.
Armed political extremists have taken hostages downtown. Somebody do something!
Wait! Stop! We'll get to all of that. Just relax, okay? We'd lost Shelly a year ago. These days, it's just me and the kid.
Looks great.
I'll just scrape off the black part. That part's pretty good.
Now give him back.
I don't want to hurt him.
Why didn't you do anything?
Sometimes it's better to do nothing.
It's going good.
You're saying that this corporation would knowingly poison its own customers just to boost their own profit margins?
Summon the nuts.
Okay, summoning the nuts.
I didn't want any of this. I'm a monster.
You're not a monster. Show him your good heart.
Hey, buddy, I'm your dad.
What the?
I wasn't even involved. But sometimes You gotta do something.
Who the fuck are you?
Just some dude with a mouth.
How does it feel to be a hero?
Do you realize what's at stake here?
Everything!
Find him, bring him here.
There you are.
That was just self-defense. You haven't killed anyone else, have you?
See, when you say, self-defense,
He's an ugly son of a bitch, though.
That's all that matters to me.
The toxic Avenger.
That's what the kids are calling him. I think it's swell.
They totally missed the opportunity for a Lloyd Kaufman cameo. I think he should have been like the news broadcaster there. That would have been hilarious. So yeah, it's definitely an entertaining trailer for sure. Definitely really feels like a trauma film, but with a budget, the humor is on point, for sure. Super raunchy, very, very gory, and very much looks like there's going to be plenty of that gross out humor that, fans of trauma will know and love. I also like, kind of the changes they've made to, Melvin's, backstory now. Rather than him being kind of like just the socially awkward, over the top, janitor nerd who gets, bullied by a bunch of jocks and then thrown into the toxic, the sludge that turns him into Toxic Avenger. It looks like this time they kind of make him like they make him more relatable, but everything else about the world still seems like overly wacky and over the top, just like you would see in a trauma movie. So it definitely I like that it's kind of finding that good balance of still making him feel kind of how do I put it without crapping on the original Toxic Avenger? Peter Dinklage's character from this trailer feels like an actual person, whereas the characters from the original movie, because it's just a full-on wacky comedy. They feel more like caricatures, less than actual characters. So I definitely look forward to seeing this one when it comes out. And I am curious to maybe he's already talked about it already, but I am curious to hear what Lloyd Kaufman or the actor that played the original Toxic Avenger, what either of them think about it. I'd be very curious to hear their thoughts too. But yeah, that was the Toxic Avenger trailer. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. But for now, we're going to move on to our first main topic, which will, of course, be Marvel related. So recently, guys, and I'm sure most of you have already seen this news, and I say that because yesterday at work, I've actually had a couple of coworkers coming up to me with this, which means that this news is so well known that the general public that doesn't even keep up with Marvel kind of news like this has been talking about it. And that is, we got a new person joining the next Spider-Man movie, and it's not a traditional Spider-Man MCU Spider-Man character. That is, it is a character who has been in the MCU, but it's definitely not shared the screen with too many characters outside television, and that is, of course, Jonathan Bernthal's The Punisher. See if I can get this article up here real quick. Share screen and go. Yes, here we are. All right, so Jon Bernthal joins Tom Holland in Spider-Man Brand New Day. All right, Jonathan Bernthal has appeared in several Marvel television series and Stone Cold as the Stone Cold vigilante known as the Punisher, even heading his own series. Now he's taking his guns to the big screen. Jonathan Bernthal has joined Tom Holland in Spider-Man Brand New Day, the latest Spider-Man movie from Sony and Marvel. Destin Daniel Cretton is directing the feature, which will shoot in England this summer and has a July 31st, 2026 release date. Much of the movie remains shrouded in mystery. Movie rumor websites have listed upwards of dozens of possible villains, from crime bosses to alien symbiotes, who could appear in the feature, as well as a couple different versions of the Hulk. See if there's anything else kind of talking about specifically Jon Bernthal. Having Jon Bernthal as the Punisher seems to point to a slightly more grounded angle on the story, as the character hails from the gritty street corners of the Marvel Universe, and in the comics at least, uses fists, knives, guns, tussles with bad guys rather than spells or fancy tech. But hey, having him square off against a rampaging Hulk could be fun too. Bernthal first showed up as the vigilante Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, in Marvel's Daredevil Netflix series, then starred in his own show that ran for 2 seasons. He recently returned for a few episodes of Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. Marvel is betting more on Punisher and Bernthal in the months and years to come. The character is set to return for season 2 of Born Again, and Marvel is bringing Bernthal back for a Punisher standalone feature on Disney Plus. Bernthal is co-writing the latter. Curiously, one non-negotiable he had for his return to Daredevil was maintaining the character's violent R-rated feel. It will be interesting to see that translate to a more kid-friendly tone of the Spider-Man movies. Yes, that is actually kind of the main thing I'm kind of curious to see with the Punisher in Spider-Man. And this is something that I think Marvel is going to be having to figure out the good balance for a lot when it comes to its next upcoming like team up movies, because I think it's pretty safe to say at this point, even though it hasn't been announced yet, we're getting Deadpool back at some point in one of the next Avengers movies, whether it's going to be the upcoming Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars. He's going to be coming back. He's an R-rated character, and you're going to be putting him into a PG-13 movie. So there's definitely, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's definitely possible. I mean, the comics pull it off all the time. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to balance having these type of characters who are usually constantly, murdering and dropping all these F-bombs, and trying to have them coexist in a PG-13 film where, they you can't really get away with quite as much. So, I whichever one comes out first, it is going to be interesting, because while both the Punisher and Deadpool are both, very much R-rated characters, they're very much R-rated characters for very different reasons. So it's definitely going to be it's going to be fun to see how Marvel tries to balance them without completely butchering their characters. An example of what I can think of where I think it was actually done pretty well in the past was pretty recently, actually. I think it was this year, and if not, it was like late last year. But I remember they had the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia Abbott Elementary crossover, and the crew from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia very much felt like themselves, even though their overall raunchiness felt very toned down compared to how it usually is in their own show. Now we have another crossover between the two of them coming out later this year, with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia returning with its next season, and we're going to see basically a look from their side, from their point of view of the crossover. And that's where we see in the trailer, the crew seems to be a lot more of their raunchy selves. I mean, we literally see Frank pissing in a locker at one point. So I think that's kind of the comparison I can make here, is that you got Jonathan Bernthal's Punisher joining Spider-Man, a very R-rated character, but very much, in a kid-friendly franchise. And it's going to be great to see the contrast between him and Spider-Man as characters. I really hope, the two of them aren't just like getting along from the get-go. Like, I want to see these two butt heads with each other, because Spider-Man very much is not the kind of person that kills, but Punisher definitely is, and will be as brutal as he needs to be to get the job done. And I think that is a perfect contrast that they can definitely have some fun with. And then also, it's not the first time Tom Holland and Jonathan Bernthal have been in a film together, so it'll be kind of cool to see them working together again. Definitely looking forward to seeing what kind of chemistry we'll get between Spider-Man and the Punisher. Definitely some exciting news in terms of within the world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. But let me know your guys' thoughts too in the comments below. If some of you guys are mixed on this. We got Marcelino Vasquez with a comment. Some people think they will push the PG-13 rating so it limits how they rating. So it's like how they did Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think they will do it off-screen kills. I mean, I don't think they'll necessarily be off-screen kills. What I think it'll be is that it'll be just kind of the same kills that you see like in Daredevil and in Punisher. But this time, when the Punisher shoots someone, you just won't see like the blood splatter the same way you would if it was like in one of their shows. I think a lot of what makes those shows R-rated, not everything, of course, but a lot of what makes it like R-rated is kind of like the way it's shot. Like the sometimes you get like the over-exaggerated blood, whereas like in an R-rated movie you shoot someone, you get the over-exaggerated blood, whereas like in a PG-13 movie you shoot someone, they just fall to the ground, and that's kind of it. I think that's mostly the direction they'll go. Obviously I don't think we're going to see him drop any F-bombs, maybe one, because in PG-13 you can get away with one F-bomb, and I'm curious if they would want to use that in a Spider-Man movie, because Guardians of the Galaxy 3, they dropped the F-bomb. In fact, I think that was Marvel's first F-bomb was in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And for that though, it's like Guardians, even though it is family friendly, they have always had kind of an edge to them that other Marvel movies didn't really have. So even though it happened in Guardians 3, I don't necessarily think it's guaranteed in Spider-Man, but we'll see. They may end up doing the exact thing that they did in the first two Spider-Man movies, where they end it with him about to say it, but then it just cuts to the credits, because they did that with Aunt May, because like she was about to be like, what the, and then it cuts to credits, and then you had that exact same thing with Spider-Man at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, where again, he sees that his identity has been released to the world, and so he was about to say what the, and then cuts the credits. So maybe we'll get that with the Punisher. Maybe he'll be like what the, and then cuts the credits. We'll have to wait and see. But moving on from Marvel to DC, so we got a small DC announcement here that you guys have probably seen, and then we got a big interview to cover with James Gunn. So we'll start with the smaller one first, which is that DC has found its Clayface. That's right, everybody. We now know who is going to be playing Clayface in the upcoming DC movie Clayface. I made a joke with one of my friends on Facebook how it's funny that they have casted they've casted DC's Clayface before they've casted DC's Batman. I find that funny, and my friend replied, "Oh, didn't you hear?" As a joke, he was like, "They cast Adam Sandler to play Batman." And I think that if that were the case, I would actually start buying into the Snyder Cult rumors of James Gunn taking up the job as DC head just to sabotage it so Marvel can get ahead again, which is an actual rumor that people have started. I don't think it's still going, but I do remember when it was announced that he was going to be the studio head of DC, that was something that people were actually like unironically trying to start a rumor of, and just people are hilarious sometimes. But here it is. We now have Tom Rise Harris, and he lands the Clayface role in DC Studios movie directed by James Watkins. When it comes to casting the lead in DC Studios' next big movie, Clayface, the studio went with a fresh face, that being Welsh actor Tom Rise Harris. The actor from the Uma Thurman starring Apple TV series Suspicion and such movies as The Return and the Kandar and The Gentleman landed the role from a competitive list of British thespians that include 28 years later's Jack O'Connell, The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Tom Blyth, and the 1917's George Mackay. So definitely a very competitive field there, and he still got it. The movie from Speak No Evil directors James Watkins is the next big project for James Gunn's and Peter Safran's DC Studios after next summer's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Which is scheduled for release September 11th of 2026. Clayface will be shooting at Warner Brothers Leviston studio in the UK. That's right. I remember they built like a huge studio just, specifically for DC projects in the UK. Clayface is a shape-shifting villain from the Batman comic books who got his introduction as part of Detective Comics number 40. Wow, I didn't realize he was actually introduced that early on in June 1940. The original Clayface was a moderately successful actor who adopted the identity of a character he'd portrayed in a horror pick after turning to crime. Clayface has a body seemingly made out of clay and has appeared over the years in various films, series, and animated works, video games, and other forms of media. I do remember when what was his name? Mike Flanagan, the guy who wrote the original draft for this movie, turned it in. He did say that a lot of inspiration for this Clayface in particular came from the Batman animated series version of the character. So anyone who loves the Batman animated series is probably going to be really into this, depending on how much they may have changed from that first draft. Ray Harris, repped by UTA's Curtis Brown Group and Goldman, Ginow, wait, what? Oh, this is just talking about his kind of like early years. Producing Clayface are Gunn Safran, as well as Batman filmmaker Matt Reeves and Lynn Harris. Chintal Nog is a executive producer. Life of Chuck filmmaker Mike Flanagan, yeah, that's right, wrote the first draft of Clayface, with additional drafts by Oscar-nominated The Wings of Dove and Drive subscribe Hussein Amini. Hussein Amini, yeah. Then DC Studios is expected to make a big splash with Gunn's season 2 premiere Peacemaker at San Diego Comic-Con, and DC Superman from Gunn's opening July 11th. The movie is currently projected to open to $100 million domestic box office. So yeah, big plans for the DC universe for sure. As for this casting, I can't say I've seen him in anything, so I don't really know if this is going to be a good casting for Clayface or not, but I am definitely intrigued to see how he does. But that being said, though, it does look like he, had some big competition. So if they specifically chose him out of that competition, I imagine there's got to be a reason for it. I have not yet seen the movie. What was it? Speak No Evil. That the director was mentioned to have directed. But I will definitely. Usually, whenever there's kind of like a big new movie coming out, I do like to see what the directors have worked on before. So I'll definitely be checking it out, of course, later on. But for now, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic. This is probably going to be the biggest topic of the day, and that is, of course, the interview with Entertainment Weekly had with James Gunn, which goes over a lot of similar things that he had done with his interview with the Rolling Stones, but he adds a few more details here and there, but we will get into that. And cool. So here it is, everyone. DC's Man of Tomorrow. James Gunn on Superman, Gods and Monsters, and what's next. James Gunn is a man with a plan. Actually, I'm going to skip that part because it's not really part of the interview itself. Here we go. I'm just going to skip down to the interview, which is right down here. So we have Entertainment Weekly asking, you're one of the very few filmmakers, probably the only head of a studio who is active on social media. When did you decide that you really wanted that sort of direct line of communication between DC fans? And then James Gunn replied, I think it just happened naturally. In fact, I'm much less active than I've ever been on social media, just mostly because I'm busy, but also because it's just too much. I've been on social media really since MySpace took off. Who remembers MySpace? And have a lot of interactions with fans online since that time. I am from Manchester, Montana. I totally forgot what MO stood for. Okay. I didn't know anyone in Hollywood. Those few moments where I was young and was able to interact with somebody who was part of this, what I thought of as a magical and distant and far away world of Hollywood or entertainment media in general, whether it was a local DJ or Joe Strummer, who I met when I was a kid, or Pierce Brosnan, who I met when I was a kid, really meant a lot. I've always wanted to give that same thing back in terms of realizing these people are buying tickets to my movies and making fan art, and all these things are just people, and to treat them with the respect that human beings deserve and creating that type of mutual respect with fans that they deserve. I think that is actually a really cool way to look at it. Now, here's the thing. I don't think that, any fan is ever entitled to basically be able to interact with a celebrity or someone that they really enjoy. But when that celebrity goes out of their way to like interact with fans, whether it's through a small thing like social media or going to conventions, I just think it's fantastic when they do that. It's not something that I ever think that they have to do, but when they do it, I think it's absolutely incredible, and it just makes me respect them a lot more as people. And next question. I joke with my colleague that part of my job these days is debunking a lot of the rumors that go around online. I have noticed quite frequently you tend to shoot those down in the moment. But yeah, so his response, but now I've kind of softened a bit because it happens so often. Excuse me. There are a couple of people specifically who have pretty large followings who just constantly put out false stories, just one after another after another. Man, I just got the hiccups at the worst time. 90% of the time. One after another, 90% of the time. Maybe once every 20 times they say something that has a slight or partial basis in reality. And it gets to be old. I'm not sure of those people that I'm not actually helping them in certain way by debunking them, because you're giving them traffic, which I always do, but I think they like it. So I mostly quit. But every once in a while, there's a story that gets out of hand quickly, that the possibilities of hurting someone's feelings. For instance, if there's a director we're talking to about a project, and all of a sudden it comes out a story that so-and-so director, who has nothing to do with anything doing this project, you want to kill that story pretty quickly because it's not true. Same with actors or whoever. If people's feelings are at stake and there's something that's getting out of hand, I'll shut it down. Which, yeah, I think that is a good time to kind of step in, is like if there's like a false rumor that could potentially I don't even know if I would just like say hurt someone's feelings, but I would say that if there is a story that goes out, like let's say a director is let's say that people assume a director wants a certain project, right? And an article comes out that, oh, this other director got it. That director who probably wants that project will see that article and then probably think that it's already taken, and so then look for work elsewhere. And in doing so, now that person has lost the opportunity for that project. And yeah, so I think that, yeah, when you put false information out there, basically about about certain directors doing something, or he didn't use this as an example, but I'm going to use it. When you use like an example of actors, like you hear that actors are about to leave a project, I think that's also a bad idea, because then you get the wrong people looking at that kind of information, and then you might have them actually think, hey, I heard this rumor that you want to leave the show, so we're just going to write you off the show. So yes, I do agree with James Gunn that those are definitely the type of rumors you really want to shut down before they get out of hand, just because you never know, it could spread like fire. I also do like how he mentions there are some specific people, but he doesn't name drop them, but I think I have an idea of at least one of the people that he's talking about, because I have seen him kind of call her out in the past. So I am kind of curious if that's like who he was like thinking of when he said that in the interview. But moving on to the next question. What is it like for you to do that? Sorry, I need to get some more coffee real quick. What is it like for you to do that, being the head of the studio, but also the director of a film like Superman? Are you able to compartmentalize? Listen, a lot of my social networking is done by other people. It's always me. It's always my words, but a lot of the time there's other people that are posting it. And a lot of other times, other people are bringing me these questions offline from online, and I'll answer them and send them those answers. But then every once in a while, I have a long fight or a long drive, or somebody else is driving or something, and I get on threads and I answer question. You can see when I'm actually doing that, because there will be like 5-6 answers in a row once every 3 weeks. And yeah, I've definitely noticed that kind of a pattern from James Gunn in particular. I'm sure this is something that plenty of other celebrities will do, where they'll just completely be off social media because they're going to be working on other projects, and so they won't even have time to even think about Twitter. But then, something happens, you might be on a long trip to somewhere, and so you got all this free time, and it's like, I might as well just check my social media. And then that's when you have those moments of him just constantly like rapid fire answering fan questions, all sorts of things like that. So yeah, that definitely tracks. All right. What has it been like judging your responsibilities as co-head of DC Studios with your responsibilities of writing and directing Superman? This is a very good question, because I can't think of any studio heads that also take on directing the way he does. But we'll find out. Let's see what his answer is. So the balance between creative and business. The balance is between specific creative and macro creative. Peter Safran, he does all our meetings. He does all the business stuff. For me, it's about writing and directing, but it's also about shepherding other writers and directors. It's about trying to come up with other ideas for other shows, other movies that I give to other writers to take care of. So my job is all creative. Occasionally, there are other things that you need to do, of course, as any writer director does, but mostly it's taking care of the creative storytelling across all platforms. Which, very much goes in line with what he said, because I remember him mentioning in an earlier interview that he had been offered a similar position before, but turned it down because it would have just been him basically as the head. People have asked him in the past, like if he was offered Kevin Feige's position, would he take it? And he said no, because, he wants to focus on being creative, not the actual producing side. And I think that this is what worked out with him, is that Peter Safran was taking care of all the basically the business end of things. So the only thing that James Gunn himself has to worry about is making sure the stories that he tells, and that the stories other people are telling, they're definitely, like, first of all, that they, meet the standard of a DC movie, or at least, the DC movie in James' eyes going forward. They live up to like a certain quality, a certain standard, and then also, throwing his suggestions, making sure they all kind of, feel coherent with each other, like they can all coexist in the same universe. So I get what he's saying here, because he's kind of mentioned it a lot. This is why he wanted a partner when taking up a job like this, and I think that's really cool. Like a true artist really knows his strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's something that James Gunn really knew when he took up this job. That said, it's a little too much at times. I can't do everything. I've had to try to focus on what I can focus on, which has been part of my learning process over the past couple of years of having this job. If I try to do everything, it's too little of any one thing. So I need to really focus on certain pieces of of what's happening. When I find somebody really terrific, what I found with Damon Lindelof and Chris Mundy and Tom King, who are currently running the Lanterns, I read the scripts, I give them notes, but then I let them do their thing. I mean, I'll watch the dailies, make sure everything's going okay, and then I'll watch when we start getting the cuts, which I think we're supposed to get next week or something. I'll start giving them notes and specific on the specific cuts, whereas maybe I was a little bit more involved during the writing phase. For instance, of Supergirl, because that was something that that was one of the first ideas I had when I came to work at DC. I really wanted to adapt Woman of Tomorrow, the Tom King book, so it depends on what's happening. Okay, and then this is kind of the story where I feel like this is kind of had a little bit of confusion from people in terms of how James Gunn got the job directing Superman. I picked up bits and pieces of the story here and there. How did you settle on Superman to be the first movie that you would write and direct in this new phase of DC? All three that are now coming out were already in the process before I took over at DC. I was already hired to write Superman. I was already working on Creature Commandos, and I already had a deal to do Peacemaker season 2. The thing is that the priorities of what was up first changed because I was already writing Superman. He's one of the three biggest characters in DC, one of the most important characters in all of Warner Brothers catalog, but was also really the figurehead of DC in a lot of ways because he's the first ever superhero. So it seemed the right movie to do first, which I would definitely agree with him there. As much as I love the way that Iron Man kicked off the MCU, I wouldn't necessarily want, a new DC universe to be kicked off with kind of like a lesser known character. Like if they had a character like Metamorpho kicking off the DCU, I wouldn't want that. I would want it to be someone like Superman personally. Not that I would let that, stop me from enjoying whatever, cinematic universe happened afterwards. But it feels right to have Superman be the one to kick off the DC universe, I'm gonna see any of these other questions. Because most of these are just kind of like, I don't want to get too much into some of these because they're also spoiling the movie. Okay, actually, yeah, this is the big question that I wanted to get to because it's actually the title in the title of the article. But you titled this first phase of the DCU as Gods and Monsters. How much of Superman is really crucial to that overall story that you're thinking of telling across these films and TV shows? Oh, it's very important. I wouldn't say Creature Commando is important, but Peacemaker and Superman are both pretty important in terms of getting to the bigger story. At the same time, I am really trying to be careful that anybody can dip in and see these stories that is up next and not feel like they're missing information. The other stories can provide added textures to what you're watching. That might change down the line as we get deeper into what's happening in the universe. It could be like Infinity War and Endgame, where you kind of have to see Infinity War to know what's going on in Endgame. But you're right. I'm trying to keep it so that you don't have to see Superman to see Supergirl, for example. Even though there's a lot of stuff in Superman that leads into Peacemaker, you certainly don't need to see it to see Peacemaker. It's just good if you have. But also we say previously in the DCU before every episode. So the TV stuff is pretty easy, which, okay, that's kind of cool. Previously on the DCU, which man, is that something? Because that's not something that Marvel TV does, I don't think. But I remember Agents of Shield used to do something kind of similar. If they had an episode that took place like after an Avengers movie and had like a slight tie into that movie, they would say previously on Agents of Shield and Avengers Age of Ultron. So I guess they've kind of done that with Marvel back when they had Agents of Shield. But yeah, it's really cool that they're kind of doing that now with the DC universe. So I am hoping this means, because we got Frank Guerrero coming into Peacemaker season 2. I do hope this means that we get like kind of clips of Creature Commandos, like the animated series, like in the previously on section of Peacemaker. It'll also be kind of cool to see clips of Superman during that, assuming that that will be in it, because I could see how Superman would end up being relevant to the plot. But yeah, so very fascinating interview. I think I'm going to end it there. But yeah, great insight into James Gunn's mind and just what goes through his head when he runs the studio, and just some of the challenges he's going to be facing. I'm going to check some of your questions. I've been trying to ask James Gunn on Twitter that if we do get more Superman sequels, if Lex Luthor will be pushed to the sidelines so the lesser known Superman villains can get some recognition. Yeah, you gotta always just time it right. You gotta make sure when you're asking these questions on Twitter or Threads. I think Threads is probably the better way to go, honestly, with James Gunn in particular. You just gotta make sure you're asking it when he's like on the plane or just in the car, and that he just happens to see it at the right time. But yeah, I think honestly this might be a question he probably wouldn't answer, or if he did, it would give you kind of the I don't know kind of answer. And again, just because I genuinely don't think he doesn't know at this point, because I think right now he's just kind of planning it with Superman. At least, like, I know he has like an overarching like through line for the first chapter of the DC universe, but I think in terms of like Superman, I think that he's kind of taking it like one movie at a time, but we'll definitely see how that goes. Because Lex Luthor fatigue is real for some people. It's funny because I don't see a lot of Lex Luthor. I mean, like, yes, in the televisions he's used quite a bit, like in Supergirl and Superman and Lois. But in terms of the movies, I mean, we had Jesse Eisenberg's version of the character, but I don't think anyone was a fan of that. But yeah, I guess it is true. Like every time, I mean, with the exception of Man of Steel, yeah, like most of the time for kicking off a new Superman franchise, Lex Luthor is usually, right there with him. So I can kind of see it the more I'm thinking about it. And yes, that is who I was thinking of when he mentioned two specific or a couple of specific people. Yeah, there was one in particular I remember him calling out, and yes, it was Grace Randolph at one point. I don't even remember what it was he was calling her out for. But yeah. There is a theory that the Hammer Bravia will be a mind-controlled Supergirl who Superman will rescue, and then it leads to her solo movie. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see that because we see him having like a laser, basically the same kind of heat vision that Superman has. Yeah, I'd be very curious about that. The Arrowverse would also do previously on other shows. Oh yeah, that's right, they would. That's right. Uh Oh, what kind of threads would work to ask James Gunn's? Any names specifically? At this point, I'm not sure. There was one question I did ask him on Instagram, never got an answer to, but it was during basically he posted a photo, an AMA photo regarding Peacemaker. So my question for that post was because there was a joke in season 1 where they reference the Green Arrow going to My Little Pony conventions dressed as who is it, like Rainbow Dash? I'm so sorry, I don't know My Little Pony. But yeah, basically it was like that he would go to Roni conventions dressed as like Rainbow Dash with a giant asshole. And I guess Stephen Amell took offense to that joke, even though I'm pretty sure it's safe to say the joke was not aimed at Stephen Amell. It was aimed at the Green Arrow as a character. And it was just like a throwaway joke, but Stephen Amell took offense to that. So my question to James Gunn was that joke directed at Stephen Amell, or was it just a silly one-off line? And unfortunately, I never got a reply, of course, but yeah. All right. Moving on to our next topic. So we have a Highlander reboot coming up, and I know that there was definitely a lot of discourse on rebooting the Highlander series. A lot of people saying, why not just keep the franchise we got currently going? Why not just, keep making more sequels? But to which I would just ask, have you seen the first 3 Highlander movies? Because I feel like you would already know the answer as to why we're not just going to keep making sequels, because the continuity for the Highlander franchise is so out of whack. And I mean, like, it makes absolutely no sense to me. So if there is any franchise that I feel like needs to be rebooted so it can have a more clean slate, it's Highlander. So Highlander is, of course, being rebooted, and we know that we have Henry Cavill coming into the main role. But now we have another announcement, an announcement of another actor joining, basically taking up the mentor role from Sean Connery. And I think it's an announcement that a lot of fans are going to be pretty happy about. So let's get into this. So we now know that Russell Crowe is joining Henry Cavill in Highlander. Russell Crowe will instruct Henry Cavill in the ways of the immortals in the remake of The Highlander. The Oscar winner is set to play Henry Cavill's mentor in the variation on the part played by Sean Connery in the 1986 original film. John Wick director Chad Stiletzky will oversee the remake, which has a script by Michael Finch. John Wick Chapter 4. Highlander is being backed by Amazon, MGM Studios, and the United Artists, which is being run by former Netflix film chief Scott Stubbard. The film will open theatrically, which is good. Crowe was one of the biggest stars of the late 90s, early appearances in live action heavy roles like The Gladiator and Master and Commander, and earning critical rave for the more dramatic work like The Insider, Beautiful Mind, and LA Confidential. In recent years, he's taken on more character parts in the likes of Kraven the Hunter, or starred in lower budget movies such as The Pope's Exorcist and Sleeping Dogs. I totally forgot The Pope's Exorcist was a thing. Crowe is next slated to play Hermann Goring in one of Hitler's most trusted allies in James Vanderbilt's Nuremberg, which is a Sony Picture Classic, which will release in November. I did not know this was a role he was taking up. Interesting. He also recently wrapped work on Netflix's on a Bomb, which looks at the Unabomber, sorry, which looks at the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, as well as the Cold War thriller Billion Dollar Spy and the action thriller Bear Country. So yeah, Russell Crowe is definitely started to keep himself busy recently. It looks like he's kind of becoming like Samuel L. Jackson in terms of like all the roles that he's now kind of taking up. Stubber and Nick Nesbitt will produce Highlander for United Artists alongside Neil H. 8711 Entertainment, Stilinski's production banner, Josh David and David Pansner Productions, and Louise Rosner United Artists has secured full rights to the 1986 original, which Lionsgate developed with potential to also develop a new series. The original film starred Christopher Lambert and centered on a group of nearly invincible Angelus warriors. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, Russell Crowe coming to Highlander. If you guys ask me personally, I think this is a huge win. I absolutely love Sean Connery in his role when he played that character, and I think Russell Crowe is definitely the perfect man to take it up. I think he definitely is that perfect age range of still looks like he can kick ass, but also kind of to be the mentor character of Highlander, especially if he's mentoring after Henry Cavill. I am definitely excited to see this movie. I really love the original Highlander, and then Highlander 2 is just one of those movies that's just so bad it's just hilarious to watch. I remember I believe the first version of the movie I watched was the re-release version, so like the digitally enhanced, the upgraded version, and I thought the only changes they had made to the movie were like the special effects, like maybe the special effects were redone so they looked a little bit like crispier. No, when I watched, because at the theater I work at, we have what's called Weird Wednesday, where we just play like a super bizarre movie, and so one of them was the original cut of Highlander 2. It was a completely different movie. It was equally silly, equally bad, but it wasn't the same movie that I basically had watched, when I watched like the released physical media version of the film. But yeah, both of them bad, but both of them entertaining as hell. So even though I'm saying that Highlander 2 is a terrible movie, I'm also saying I recommend watching it is all. Let's see what you guys have to say. So Russell Crowe is an Oscar-worthy actor, but for some reason he's always getting stuck in bad movies. Craven, Pope's Exorcist, Robin Hood 2010, The Mummy 2017, and Thor: Love and Thunder. Yeah, you're right. I wonder if it's like he has a bad agent, or if he's just like not picky about roles, or what's going on there. I hope this one ends up being a win for him. I really do. I think that both he and Henry Cavill could really use a win at the moment. Why does he get stuck in all these bad movies? He's such an authentic actor. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's all because the studio didn't go with his idea for Gladiator 2. Who knows? But guys, we got one more topic, and it's one that you guys know I'm excited to talk to you guys about, because it's a franchise that I absolutely love. Franchise that started out with a really banger first hit, because man, you had a very micro budget movie that ended up making the studio a crap ton of money, and what did they do? They butchered it And I loved how much they butchered it because it was still entertaining, even as the sequels got worse and worse and worse, up until a couple of the screw it. It's Saw. It's the Saw franchise, is what I was alluding to. But yeah, as you guys know, I am definitely a big fan of the Saw franchise. Obviously, like any horror movie franchise, it definitely gets worse over time. But I do think that the last movie that they had released, Saw X, was surprisingly pretty well done. But it had been announced a while ago. This was the last time Adam and I talked about the Saw franchise. It had been announced a while ago that they weren't going to be moving forward with the original plans for Saw 11 because I believe the studio wanted it to be more traditional, but the person working on it wanted to go more in the direction of Saw X, which I thought worked out pretty well, which is that they made it more of a kind of less over the top. I don't want to say grounded because it still felt pretty out there, at times, but kind of making it more of a personal film rather than just like a very plot centric film, if that makes sense. So now we got news though about the Saw franchise and where we could see it going in the future because it has been bought by Blumhouse. Blumhouse buys the rights to the Saw franchise. Blumhouse, the maker of horror hits such as Insidious and Five Nights at Freddy's, has acquired the rights to feature Saw films, shows, and properties featuring the murderous, torture-loving Jigsaw. The company paid an undisclosed amount of money for the part of the franchise. Currently owned by producers Oren Colas and Mark Berg. In statements, Colas said it felt like the right time to pass the baton, while Berg said he wanted to move on and tell new stories. Lionsgate, which has released all 10 films in the series to the tune of more than $1 billion at the global box office, will continue to partner in the property. In the property. It will also retain its existing 50% ownership stake and in distribution of full installments, or sorry, to the future installments, which is going to be interesting because that means if two different if two studios have 50% ownership of the franchise, I wonder if this means that we could be seeing some kind of discourse between the two of them on where to take the franchise. Let's say we have a final cut of the movie that Blumhouse really loves, but Lionsgate absolutely hates. Does Lionsgate have the authority to pull the film or something along those lines? I don't know. As far as I know, please in the comments let me know if I'm wrong about this, because I'm hearing this from only one person that works with Lionsgate directly, but I have been told that Lionsgate is usually pretty relaxed about letting directors, actually direct and do their thing. So if I had to guess, I would assume that Blumhouse would still be the main people behind the creative process of Saw. But again, I've heard that only from, Kevin Smith, the director. So that is only his perspective. I do not know what it's like to work with Lionsgate personally, and I haven't heard too many other perspectives on this. So if you guys have heard anything else of what it's like working with Lionsgate, definitely let me know in the comments. With the deal, the franchise makes its way back to James Wan, who directed the original blood-soaked Saw in 2004. Wan's Atomic Monster labeled merged with Blumhouse in 2024. The company's list of films includes Get Out, The Purge, Mithrigan, and Annabelle. And yes, I know it's Megan, but you know what? There's a 3 in there, so I'm going to call it Mithrigan. Jason Blum, founder of Blumhouse, said that Saw had defined generations of horror. Its cultural impact continues to grow, making it a strategic investment in one of the most recognizable, successful genre properties in the last 2 decades, Blum added. The Blumhouse CEO said that Juan and Lai Wendell or Winnell, writer of the first film, would be brought back into the fold and will help guide the future of the franchise. This is interesting because, as far as I know, James Wan only ever worked on the very first movie. So when it came to the really, really convoluted timeline that followed the first movie, James Wan didn't really have anything to do with any of that. So I am kind of curious if he's coming back to the franchise, and it sounds like he's going to be basically kind of rebooting the franchise. I'm curious to see if we're going to keep all of what happened between Saw 1 and Saw X, if that's all going to stay in continuity, or if he's going to kind of do trying to think of a franchise that there's so many franchises that do this, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head for some reason. Terminator does this all the time. If he's going to pull a Terminator and basically just kind of be like, oh yeah, the only movie that's canon is going to be the first Saw movie, or Halloween also does that. Where like every time Halloween gets rebooted, they tend to be like, oh, only the first two movies are canon. Everything else in between you can forget. Or honestly, the most recent Halloween remake, they didn't even do that. The most recent one, they were just like, only the first movie is canon, not even the second movie. So I'm curious to see if that's what James Wan does when he takes over. Saw holds a special place in my heart, Wan said, adding, coming back to this world would be a fresh perspective. It is both thrilling and deeply personal. For me, this will mark a significant creative return to the Saw franchise for the first time since the early days, and I'm very much looking forward to embracing the original spirit whilst pushing the legacy forward in a bold, unexpected ways. But yeah, so it sounds like he's excited to come back to the franchise. I'm kind of excited to see him come back to the franchise because he has definitely grown a lot as a director since the original Saw movie. So, wherever he takes the direction of the Saw franchise after this, I am here for it. But yeah, that'll do it for our main topic. So guys, I think we all know what time it is. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions. And yes, we'll get into the live viewer questions once I pull them up. Probably should have had the live viewer questions up and ready to go from the beginning, but I didn't because forward thinking is not my thing. It should be, though. I really should. Wait. This is from last. Do we not have live viewer questions for this week, or is it only last week? Oh, okay. I guess only last week. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. Or wait. Let me check something real quick. I think maybe Adam wanted me. Maybe we didn't get to last week's live viewer questions, so Adam wanted me to go over them with today's show. Is that it? Let me double check. Oh, yeah. Okay. So he wants me to go over last week's live viewer questions instead of new ones from this week. So yes, let me get those up and ready to go then. Cool. I will try to read these all in order. But first, let's get into the comments that we got here. Stopped watching Saw after the fourth one because it got too much. I didn't think I had any limits to how much gore I could take, but apparently I did. Yeah, if the gore was the reason that you couldn't continue watching, totally get that. But I also would say do not watch Saw X then, because I think that's the one that really like not just pushes it in terms of gore, but in terms of like the way the gore is shown and everything. The effects for the gore is just like what really gets impressive in Saw X. Yeah, so definitely avoid that one. give us Kitty Pryde as Tom Holland's Spider-Man or Spidey's new girlfriend in the MCU. There have been so many rumors actually with all the characters that are going to be coming into Spider-Man Brand New Day, even though the only one we know for sure is the Punisher. At this point, if Kitty Pryde was a character in the upcoming Spider-Man movie, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. The scene that made me stop watching was the scene where the pregnant woman was crushed by door injuring her, by injuring her, but killing her unborn baby. And that was too much for me. Okay. Yeah, that is very understandable. Yes. And I actually know exactly what scene that you're talking about. How many more Saw movies with Tobin Bell do you think we're going to get? That's a good question, because the guy is getting old. Not to be dark or anything, but he is getting old. So I think it kind of just depends on how fast this next one is going to get written. And if he's not around for this this next franchise, I feel like he'll still kind of be there in spirit. In some way, if he decides that he wants to retire, or if he passes away before then, I think that I don't know, he's the kind of guy I could see giving his blessing to keep the Saw franchise going, because the whole thing with Saw is that even though Jigsaw dies after the third movie, he's still around in spirit because he has so many followers. So I could oh god, I kind of hope they don't do this, but I could see them going in the direction where the Saw movies no longer, where we have a new Saw franchise, but we follow a character who is a fan of the Saw franchise, I could see them going in that direction too, now that I think about it, because a couple of other, I know they did that with I think Human Centipede 2 did that, where the guy behind the whole thing was just a guy who watched the first movie and was a big fan. And then we also had Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which went in a relatively similar direction. So maybe that's the direction I could see them going in with Saw. Yeah, so never posted this week, so I thought you would ask last week since there was no live stream last week. Okay, so yeah, that's what I will do then, is I will go over last week's live viewer questions. It's cool that Tobin Bell also voiced Savitar and Dr. Alchemy on The Flash. Ooh, if I knew that, I totally forgot. All right, guys, let's do it. Let's get into these live viewer questions. Cool. And our first one, of course, is from Marcelino. When it comes to the Lantern show, it mostly comprised of original characters who don't exist in the comic books. However, there's a rumor that might change that. The rumor states that these are just aliases to cover up the identities of major characters from the comics, so comic readers won't know what to expect. This started when Garrett Dillon posted on Instagram of a fan art of him as a Green Arrow with the caption saying "Ollie, Ollie, oxen, free," as a publicity stunt. This has spawned countless theories for the rest of the cast. Paul Ben Victor is set to an alien named Anton seeks the truth and exacting vengeance against those who wronged his people. There's no alien named Acton, but does perfectly match the Atroctius. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that right. That wrong. Porma Jaganathan is set to play Zoe, who will be John's love interest. People are thinking she might play Green Lantern's Katma Tui, who is John's love interest in the comic books. Chris Coy is set to play Waylon Sanders, whose real name is unknown and unbound by the laws of nature. People think he might be playing either the Spectre or the Phantom Stranger. Wow, if it's a Spectre, that would be a huge character to bring into the Lantern show, especially when the Lanterns is kind of currently said to be kind of a more grounded series. Many DC fans are hoping this rumor is true, and these are characters from the comics, because then the show would be populated with DC characters, and they don't like it when DC shows are filled with original characters because it shows an unwillingness to dive into the source material. But what do you think if these rumors are true? Honestly, if these rumors are true, I think that it's a very cool and ambitious way to try to hide, basically hide in plain sight, some of the big characters that we're going to be seeing going forward in the DC universe. I could also, a friend of mine and I were talking about this because we have Tom King as one of the writers. And one thing that he was saying is that a lot of Green Lantern writers don't like using characters that are already there, because they see Green Lantern as like the perfect opportunity to come up with their own creative original aliens. And since Tom King, I don't know if he's ever written for Green Lantern before, but he is a comic book writer and now he's writing a Green Lantern show. I could see him using that as like an excuse to be able to write his own original alien characters. As for the human characters that have been announced, I could definitely see those being aliases. But when it comes to the aliens that are announced, I do kind of think that those are going to be mostly original characters, because that's kind of what comic book writers love to go for. And I know that, this is supposed to be an adaptation, not necessarily a fully original story. But again, when you have a comic book writer working on it, I could see them wanting to put their own original spin onto it. But that's something we'll definitely have to wait and see. Personally, I'm cool with if they go either way. Mostly because I already know what to expect going into the Green Lantern show. But that being said, I'd be totally fine with it if it turned out that these were all aliases and we are going to see some really big DC characters going forward. All right. A common criticism in the MCU that has faced is how Ultron was utilized. Many have said he was underutilized, and that should have been the first big bad of the saga. Then, once Ultron is done, then do the Infinity Saga with Thanos, and with Thanos as the second big bad. What do you think? Like, I do kind of agree in a way. I guess the reason I didn't see it that way, though, was because just I wasn't really a fan of Ultron in the Avengers movie. So that's why I wasn't really mad that we didn't really get to see more of him. Yes, in the comic books, he is a huge threat. He is a huge deal. And he definitely should have theoretically been one of the really big bads, which is why I remember when they first announced Age of Ultron, people were confused. It's like, why would you hint as Thanos as the next big bad, but it's actually going to be Ultron? And yeah, like, I think that my biggest issue with Ultron, just as a whole, is that he was pretty underwhelming. He very much, like, his motivation, destruction, because like we have to save the humans from themselves by killing them. It's not original. It's not a bad motivation. It's just, it's not original. And if you're not going to do anything original, at the very least, you should have some really good, like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be pretentious here, but I do think that if you're going to have a villain who does something super cliche, give us some really good philosophical dialogue, which we didn't really get until the very end. And even when we got that, it never came from Ultron. It came completely from Paul Bettany's vision. So, yeah, I just wasn't a fan of MCU's Ultron. I liked what they did with him in What If. But yeah, when they stopped utilizing him, I wasn't mad. But I do agree that, like, on paper, he should have been one of the big bads. He should have been like Thanos level big bad for sure. According to the Reign of Marvel Studios book, the plan after Endgame was to have Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man be the new Trinity, with Black Panther replacing Captain America as the leader of the Avengers. Captain Marvel replacing Thor as the overpowered space hero, and Spider-Man replacing Iron Man as the tech genius. However, the reason why this never happened is because Chadwick Boseman passed away. Sony tried to get the rights back to Spider-Man, and Captain Marvel wasn't a well-received character. Do you wish this was the Trinity we got after Endgame, or are there other better candidates? That's a good question. I'm not mad that we didn't get this Trinity. Obviously, I'm very sad we didn't get it for one very specific reason. That's of course Chadwick Boseman's passing. But I think that like when you try to force a Trinity, it's not gonna work. I think you gotta like let the fans decide who the Trinity is going to be instead of trying to push a Trinity forward. I'm totally cool with them, just, with them waiting to see who the next Trinity is going to be. I know I say waiting, but we're already 2 phases in and we still don't really necessarily have a new Marvel Trinity that you can really define. But regardless, yeah, I think at this point, let's wait and see what happens after the next Avengers movie, and then we'll kind of decide what that next Trinity should be. But yeah, I do think that if it had happened naturally, and if, we didn't have the tragic passing and we didn't have to deal with Sony bullshit, yeah, that would have made for a very interesting trinity of superheroes for sure. All right, our next question comes from Peg C. There were early attempts at a live action Sonic movie in the 90s with Trilogy Entertainment Group pitching a film later retitled Sonic Wonders of the World. However, these projects were utterly canceled. Do you think it would have been successful? What are your thoughts? I mean, I think financially it would have been successful in the box office, but in terms of franchise wise, I don't think it would have worked out because it's a video game movie in the 90s, and like with the exception of Mortal Kombat 1, which even then I don't even know if I would call it a good movie. I would just say it's entertaining. I don't think any video games have ever done good like back then. I think it really wasn't even until the 2000s where we started to figure out how to make a good video game movie, and even then, like, it's still a formula that's kind of being struggled with. I mean, you got a lot of highs, like you get the Last of Us TV show, you got the current Sonic movie franchise, but you still got the lows coming in. I mean, you had that Resident Evil movie that came out like 2021, and oh my god, like Resident Evil movies have always been bad. Like they've always gotten worse and worse over time. But somehow the Resident Evil movie that came out in 2021 made all those other Resident Evil movies look like masterpieces in comparison. Like, holy shit, it was bad. Are you excited for the third sequel for The Incredibles? I wouldn't say I'm excited. I'll watch it. I'll look forward to it. But I'm not really going to be excited until I see anything. Incredibles 2, I didn't mind. I just thought it was very underwhelming. And I kind of hope with this third one, if we're getting a third Incredibles movie, I hope we get a little more from the world building, and I hope we get an actual time jump. I don't want to see Violet and Jack as kids anymore, and I want to see what Jack looks like as a teenager with all these powers. Like there is a fan theory that like as infants, babies, it's common for super babies to have like multiple powers until they grow into one very specific power. But then they also mention in Incredibles 2, like they kind of name drop that in dialogue, like saying it's not uncommon for babies to have multiple powers. However, Jack is a special case. So I'm curious what that'll look like when he gets older. Does he still keep all of those powers, or is he now like limited to just a very few? But yeah, like again, not that it was a bad movie, just underwhelming is all. So we'll wait and see. If James Gunn were to produce a movie of Kingdom Come, do you think it should be live action or animated form? If it's gonna come out in like the next few years, animated, because I want to see a Kingdom Come movie for sure, but I want I guess, okay, actually, let me re-answer. Let me do that answer a different way. If it's like I would want to see, I would want to see a live action. You know what? I'm just going to answer and say live action. I just wouldn't want to see it anytime soon if it's going to be canon to the DC universe. I feel like that should be something that comes after the DC universe has been around for a while, or do it as an Elseworld story. And if they do it as an Elseworlds story, then I'd be okay with it being animated. Although I would still prefer live action. I really want to see the visuals of Kingdom Come, and that includes the costume design. Like, I want to see that specific costume design in live action. I don't want them to change a thing about the visuals of Kingdom Come aesthetically. Like, I think you could actually, with the technology that we have and the things that I've seen them being able to do in terms of superhero costumes, I think you could pull off a Kingdom Come look very good. I would love to see that for sure. Do you think a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter crossover could work in live action form or animated? I think both. But for that to happen, you first need to start a Street Fighter franchise so people know what it is. But yes, I think that would be a great crossover for sure. Remember the morpher Zato used? So awesome how Zeta used the 2 dino keys at once. Yeah. Saw the toy version recently. Still think that the training session between him and my favorite sexy badass was epic. Referring to when Zato was oh god, I'm blanking on the names actually. It's been a minute since I've seen Dino Thunder or Dino Fury. I'm just going to look up the name really quick. Because I assume you're talking about when Zato was wait. Aeon, that was his name. Yes. Okay, cool. I assume you're referring to when Zato was training with Aeon. Like, I don't remember if that was happening in Dino Fury or Cosmic Fury, but one of the two. I want to say it was Dino Fury, but yeah, definitely some pretty well choreographed fight scenes and definitely training scenes as well. The next one comes from Marky Parco Jr. The 03 film Anger Management features Sandler and Dave Benzik, a man who wrongfully perceives to have severe anger issues. He is sentenced to a month of anger management therapy with Dr. Buddy Randall, played by Jack Nicholson, an obnoxious man Dave previously encountered. Dr. Randall manipulates and blackmails Dave, even orchestrating a temporary breakup with his girlfriend Linda and dating her himself. Ultimately, it's revealed that Dr. Randall orchestrated the... Oh, shoot. This is not letting me expand it. Let me try this. Sometimes when it doesn't let me expand, I have to, like, reorganize. And it's still not letting me expand it. I don't know why it does this. Huh. Let me... I'm going to go onto YouTube on a separate browser and see if I can access the questions that way and see if it'll let me expand the question that way. There we go. Yes. Okay. Ultimately, it was revealed that Dr. Randall orchestrated the ordeal to have Dave confront his emotions, shortcomings. This fictional portrayal raises questions. What do you think of the film for individuals struggling with genuine anger management issues? What are some effective real-world strategies for managing their anger constructively? That is I don't think I'm authorized to answer this question, but I will definitely do my best. Because the problem is everyone is different. Every mind is different. What triggers angers in everyone's mind is always different. What eases anger in everyone's mind is always different. But for me, God, what is it that kind of helps me when I have like angers? Like for me, honestly, it's like just kind of like stepping out, breathing in fresh air when I can is one thing that helps. Sometimes just kind of like going on like I'd say careful not to use this as like an over reliance, but two other things that really help. Sometimes smoking some weed really helps calm me down if I'm super stressed out. I definitely don't recommend that though to everyone. So please do not take that as actual advice from me. That is something that helps me personally, but I know from other people, again, everyone's brain works differently, so it doesn't help everyone. But I think, okay, so there's actually two things that I would strongly suggest personally. If you have a significant other, I would say that just holding on to them, basically. For me, holding on to my significant other does kind of help me with stress, whether it's a hug, whether it's just holding her hand. Having her around really helps, if I'm having like those moments of anger. The other thing that I would say is that if you have a pet, that also really helps. Petting an animal. Those are the two main things that I say help with it. In the movie, it was less that if I remember correctly, it's been a minute since I've watched it, but it was less that he had like this anger management. It was more that he just constantly repressed his anger that he had, his frustrations basically. And so it was less about him constantly being angry and more that he just, was so filled with repressed anger that he just never let out. So I think that's where the real challenge kind of comes in, is knowing when to let out your anger at an appropriate time, so it doesn't affect people around you, but it also doesn't affect your mental health. I think one thing that definitely helps, and this is definitely a challenge for everyone, even I struggle with it sometimes, but being honest with people so that way you don't like hold in resentment for them and then you don't let that eat you up inside. Being honest with how you feel, and it's also why that we as people, when people are being honest with us, we have to be careful not to just, get defensive about it, not to lash right back out at them. Try to turn it into a conversation rather than an argument, basically, that kind of stuff. Again, I want to reiterate, I am not actually qualified to answer this question. So all these answers I just gave you guys, take with a grain of salt. But those are kind of just my overall thoughts on the question of how do you manage anger. It has definitely been a minute since I've seen that movie though. I do remember, I remember that trailer because, the theater I went to as a kid, it was in a very small military town. So I don't know exactly who was the one that would constantly mix the trailers, but it would always be the same 5 trailers for every movie, which is why it was hilarious seeing Piglet's Big Movie and having the trailer for Saw playing during that movie. But that being said, the reason I bring that up is because anger management, I think I know the trailer more than I know the movie, because that was one of the trailers that would play for like a year straight. It was crazy. All right, next one comes from Jessica Friedman. With Lilo and Stitch doing well at the box office, do you think Disney will start making live action remakes again? And would you like to see see a live action version of Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir? Yes, I think they will keep making live action remakes. No, I don't really want to see a live action remake of either of those. I don't want to see any more Disney live action remakes really ever because I am just done. Again, I have said this kind of in the past. There are 2 live action Disney remakes, if you can call them that I enjoyed. And that was Maleficent and Cinderella. And the reason, not Cinderella. Cruella, 2 very, very different characters. Wow. But yeah, Maleficent and Cruella. And it's not that I thought either of them were that great or anything, but I like that they were just trying to tell an original story with characters that we've already known. With the live action Disney remakes, they constantly make the same mistake of taking out very important key details from the stories without replacing them with something else, so they take out important character arcs for characters or moments that are very important for a character arc without replacing it with anything. Instead, they just fill the runtime with more interchangeable jokes after another, and nothing really adds to the character. Nothing really adds to what they replace. You know what I mean? They don't replace it with anything constructive. They replace it with interchangeable scenes. They do every once in a while try to give character development to side characters, which I appreciate. Like, in a way, even though Aladdin's the example I use for everything wrong with live action Disney remakes, it also represents what they could potentially do right with live action Disney remakes. And that is, I like that they gave Jasmine and Genie a little more character development that could have worked had they not taken out important character details for Aladdin as a character, making his overall arc in the Aladdin movie make no sense at all, basically. So I think I could go into more detail about this, but if I did that, this episode would suddenly be 3 hours long. So I don't want to do that, but I'm just going to say, putting it as vaguely as possible. I don't like live action Disney remakes. I wish they would either stop or give us like more Maleficent and Cruella. Give us more like spin-offs from Disney movies. Give us those kind of stories. Stop giving us just a complete retelling, but cutting out key details and replacing them with padding. You know what I mean? It's not working. I mean, financially it's working great because people are still paying a shit ton of money to see these. Story-wise, though, they got no heart behind them. There's no I hate saying that too, because it's like, what defines heart, when you're making art, you know what I mean? Like, I always will defend that corporate art is still a form of art. But man, live action Disney remakes make me want to change that stance. They're that bad. They make me want to say, oh, it can't be art. Actually, I will say this though. I thought Cinderella was okay. I get why people love it. I just thought it was okay personally. But yeah, I kept saying Cinderella though when I meant to say Cruella, which again, two very, very different characters. All right, I believe this is the last question. Yes. All right, so last one comes from Doomsday. Did you guys find it kind of weird how the Beast Morphers theme song played 7 minutes into the episode, whereas previous seasons theme songs from Samurai and Ninja Steel, just naming the era for example, played at least 1 or 2 minutes into the episode, or at least after the opening scene? Yes, I did find that really, really weird about Beast Morphers. I don't know why they started to do that. I think it makes theme songs should be played either after the first scene, after the cold open, as they call it. That's when you should do the theme song, or you play it before the cold open. I don't know why Beast Morphers decided to do it like 7 minutes in. I believe Simon Bennett actually answered this question at one point. I think he said it had something to do with like Nickelodeon. Either way, it was a really weird decision. Yeah, I don't know. How would you rank the main for a Neo Saban Red Rangers from worst to best, from Jaden to Brody? God, I don't even remember his name, but definitely Megaforce Red Ranger would be the lowest for me. Jaden would be right above him. Brody above Jaden, and of course Tyler from Dino Charge would be the number 1 out of the 4, because Tyler is freaking awesome. And yeah, Brandon Mejia just seems like an overall really nice dude. I've met him a couple of times at conventions, and yeah, he is a very pleasant fella. And then last question, given it's Father's Day, I guess it was last week, who do you think was the best and worst dad in Power Rangers and Marvel? Ooh, Power Rangers and Marvel. Okay. Man, you know, it's like one that I kind of want to include, even though he had such an amazing redemption arc. But you know, you had the dad from Time Force, who oh, that's right, it was Troy from Megaforce. Thank you, Marcelino. The dad from Time Force, who you know you hate in the beginning, but I love his redemption arc. I think the worst dad though would definitely be the dad from Dino Fury. Terrible father, I think. Honestly, just I not only is he kind of a dick to his son like during the first half of season 1, but I also think that like his overall like philosophy of you know, winning is like the most important thing ever. I think that's just a terrible thing to teach your kids, honestly. And even when he kind of like has his redemption arc, like he's still kind of the same, and just I didn't like him, honestly. And best dad in Power Rangers. Ooh, that's a good question though. Part of me wants to give it to the Time Force Rangers dad, because again, his redemption arc was so good. Yeah, I'm going to give it to him for now. I'm sure someone else will pop up in my head that I'll completely forget about, but for now I'm giving it to him. As for Marvel, worst dad in Marvel. Okay, I got to think about this. Who are some dads that we know of in Marvel? I mean, obviously we got Reed Richards, and then we got, of course, like in the we got, of course, Scott Lang, Cable's dad. There's like more, but why can I not think of them? Okay, I'm gonna cheat and just Google Marvel dads real quick. I guess right off the bat, though, I could say Harry Osborn is for sure the worst dad. Who would be the best though? Or not Harry Osborn, sorry, Norman Osborn obviously is the worst dad, I think. Honestly. Okay, T'Challa. T'Chaka is what I meant to say. T'Chaka would probably be like the best dad that I can think. No, actually, because there was the whole thing where he never told his son the whole truth. So I'm gonna actually change it to Scott Lang, actually. Because even though I didn't love the last Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I did love Scott Lang trying to be just, you know, a good dad to his daughter. I thought those scenes were actually pretty good. You know, the two of them trying to bond after having not seen each other for 5 years. I thought that was kind of pretty well done. So I would say he's probably my number one good dad. And then Norman Osborn would probably be the worst dad, followed pretty closely by Odin, I'll say. I mean, he did kind of, you know, throw his son to Earth without his powers just because, you know, he made a mistake. So I don't know. You gotta discipline your kids, but I mean, I feel like that took like one step a little bit too far. But you know, and then that's just my opinion. But yeah, that'll do it for our live viewer questions, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today on APlus Hero Report. Overall, good show. But yeah, at the end of the day, of course, these are all just our APlus opinions. If you guys have any more thoughts on the articles we went over, or even the live viewer questions we talked about, definitely let us know in the comments below. But don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and of course, above all, don't forget to keep it APlus. And I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.